The first thing I saw was the cub's paw, small and trembling, sticking out from under my front bumper. I had pulled onto the shoulder because the engine light flashed once and my truck started to feel wrong. A narrow dirt road cut through a wide stretch of dry grass and low brush. No houses, no fences, just wind and a gray sky that looked heavy enough to fall. I stepped out, shut the door quietly, and listened. Nothing but the ticking engine and the rustle of grass. I crouched near the grill, and that's when I saw it. Brown fur, a round ear, a face that didn't belong under a truck. The cub blinked at me, eyes wet and wide. It didn't run. It just pressed itself lower, like the ground could hide it. My stomach went cold. One thought hit hard and clear. If there's a cub, there's a mother. I scanned the field. The grass was tall enough to hide anything. The wind shifted, and I caught a faint, sour smell of damp fur and earth. I raised my hands without thinking, palms open. Then I saw her. She came out of the brush with a steady, tense walk. A brown bear, big shoulders, head low. She stopped about 20 feet away and locked eyes with me. We stared at each other in the space between my truck and the weeds. It felt like the whole world narrowed down to that strip of dirt. I whispered, even though there was no one to whisper to. Easy. I'm not coming closer. Her nose pointed toward the truck, toward the cub, and I understood something that made my skin prickle. The cub wasn't under there by accident. She had put it there. Maybe she'd been spooked by traffic. Maybe something had chased her. But she had chosen my truck like it was a cave, the only solid cover on an open roadside. The mother took 2 slow steps closer, then stopped again. Her breathing was loud enough that I could hear it. Not a roar, just heavy breath, like she'd been running. Every instinct told me to get back inside and drive. Another part of me kept repeating one question. If I leave right now, what happens to that cub? I backed away from the front of the truck and drifted toward the driver's side, moving sideways so I didn't turn my back. The cub's little nose followed me. It made a soft sound, not quite a cry, more like a confused breath. The bear's head snapped toward the cub, and she gave a low huff that sounded like a warning and a comfort at the same time. I stopped and lowered myself onto one knee, keeping space. Hey, little one. Stay there. You're okay. My phone was inside the cab on the passenger seat. Reaching for it felt risky, like any sudden move could flip the whole scene. The road stayed empty anyway, and the silence felt louder than any traffic. The bear angled toward the front of the truck, toward the cub's hiding place. She sniffed the bumper, then looked at me again, eyes dark and unblinking. It wasn't rage I saw. It was pressure, urgency, the look of an animal doing the only thing it knows to do. I swallowed, kept my voice low. I'm not going to touch him. I swear. She moved closer, close enough that I could see pale scars on her muzzle. Then she crouched near the bumper and made a soft chuffing sound under the truck. The cub answered with a tiny whine and scooted forward, belly dragging on the dirt. Its paws paddled like it was swimming through fear. The mother nudged it gently, guiding it out until its head reached the light. For a second, the cub was fully visible. Small, too small to be out here. It froze, staring at my boots. The mother lifted her head and stared straight at me. Do not move, her whole body said. I stayed frozen. Then she pushed the cub back under the truck. Not out. Back in. The cub vanished into shadow again. The mother stepped away and turned her head toward the field, sniffing hard. That's when I heard it, faint at first. A distant engine, far down the road. The bear stiffened. She looked toward the sound, then back at me. In that split second I understood why she'd chosen the truck. It wasn't comfort. It was cover. The sound grew louder. Dust rose in the distance. The mother backed toward the brush, step by step, never taking her eyes off the truck. Off the cub. Off me. An old sedan came around the bend, moving faster than it should on dirt. It roared past without slowing, the driver never even glancing over. The mother flinched at the noise and slipped into the tall grass. Gone. At first I thought she would come right back once the sound faded. I watched the weeds sway, waiting for her shoulders, her head, anything. Nothing. The ticking engine returned, loud in the quiet. The field kept moving like it hadn't just swallowed a bear. I stayed kneeling in the dirt, eyes fixed on the shadow under my bumper. A soft sound came from under the truck. The cub shifted, and its nose appeared again, sniffing the air like it was searching for the one scent that had just vanished. Come on, Mama, I said quietly. Please come back. The cub let out a thin, helpless whimper. And that was the moment the truth hit me. For whatever reason, she had left, and the cub was still here, under my truck, alone. I looked down the road and pictured the cub crawling out at the worst moment. Another car. Another set of tires. My chest tightened. I rose slowly and spoke in a low, steady voice, more for myself than for the cub. I'm going to move. I'm not coming for you. The cub's nose dipped back into shadow, then peeked out again. I took small steps to my driver's door, stopping each time to scan the grass for the mother. Nothing. I opened the door carefully, grabbed my phone from the seat, and shut the door without slamming it. My fingers shook as I called the county non-emergency line. A dispatcher answered. My name is Cole. I'm on a dirt road off Route 9 near the cattle guard. There's a bear cub under my truck. The mother bolted after a car passed. The dispatcher didn't hesitate. Do not approach it. Do not feed it. Stay back. I'm contacting wildlife officers. Don't start the engine. I swallowed. I won't. I'm standing off to the side. Wait there. Keep others away if anyone stops. I ended the call and slipped the phone into my pocket. The cub made a thin sound, like a little cough of fear. The wind picked up, and it looked colder under the truck than it had a minute ago. I took off my jacket slowly and set it on the ground a few feet from the bumper. Not close enough to reach under, just close enough to be there, like a patch of shelter. Hey, buddy, I murmured. Stay put. The cub inched forward until its face reached the light, then froze, staring at the jacket. I kept my distance and kept my eyes on the field because the mother could come back fast, and I didn't want her to find me hovering over her baby. The grass moved in ripples. No bear. No sound but wind. The cub shifted again, half out, half in, breathing hard. And I realized the next few minutes would decide everything, whether the mother returned or whether the cub crawled out alone. The first 10 minutes passed slowly, stretching thin, then collapsed into each other all at once. I stood by the driver's door, my body angled toward the open road, eyes moving constantly between the tall grass and the dark shadow beneath the truck. Every sound carried weight. Every rustle felt like it could be her coming back. Wind dragging through dry weeds. A bird lifting suddenly. My own breathing, louder than it should have been. The cub stayed mostly still, pressed flat against the dirt, its head just inside the narrow line where light met shadow. From time to time it made a soft sound, barely more than a breath, not loud enough to travel far, but sharp enough to cut straight through my chest. I checked my phone again. No signal bars. Just enough reception for calls to slip through. I dialed the number the dispatcher had given me for wildlife control. It rang twice. We have officers on the way, a calm male voice said. Stay back. The mother may return. Do not block access to the cub. I stared at the open road and felt a spike of frustration rise in my throat. There's traffic here. Not much, but enough. If another car comes fast. We know, the voice interrupted gently, as if he'd said this many times before. That's why you need to stay visible. Parked vehicle, hazard lights on if you have them. Do not stand between the cub and the road. I clicked the hazards on. Orange lights began blinking in the dull air, rhythmic and artificial. It felt like waving a warning flag in the middle of nowhere. Minutes dragged. Then a pickup appeared, rolling in maybe 15 minutes later. It slowed when it saw my truck, then stopped a short distance away. A man stepped out, late 50s maybe, baseball cap pulled low, boots crunching on gravel. What's going on? He asked, already scanning the field, the road, the truck. Bear cub under my truck, I said. Mother ran off after a car went by. He let out a low whistle. That's bad. He walked closer, curiosity pulling him forward, then stopped when I raised my hand. Please don't come closer. Wildlife's on the way. He nodded but didn't move back. You sure she's gone? I glanced at the grass, watching the way it bent and straightened with the wind. No, I'm not sure. The cub shifted then, its nose poking out farther than before. The man saw it and sucked in his breath. Poor thing. He pulled out his phone and lifted it instinctively, already framing the shot. A flare of anger hit me before I could stop it. Don't do that. He looked at me, surprised. Why not? People need to see this. People don't need to see it, I said. The cub needs to stay alive. He hesitated, then lowered the phone, slipping it back into his pocket without another word. Another vehicle approached, slower this time. A woman in a dusty SUV rolled down her window. You hit a bear? No, I said. It crawled under. She leaned out, squinting, trying to get a better look. You should move the truck. Let it out. I shook my head. I can't. The officers told me not to. She frowned. frustration flashing across her face. So you're just going to leave it there? The words hit harder than she probably meant them to. I didn't answer right away, because the truth was, standing still felt wrong. Doing nothing felt like letting something bad happen in slow motion, like watching an accident form 1 inch at a time. The cub let out a louder whine and slid forward another inch. Its front paws crossed fully into the daylight. The road lay just beyond them, open and dangerous. The man in the cap took an unconscious step forward. It's going to crawl out. I moved sideways, positioning myself where any approaching driver would see me first, but still far enough from the cub to keep distance. Stay back, I said. Both of you. They stopped. Uneasy now, the reality settling in. I called wildlife control again. The cub's moving toward the road. I hear you, the same calm voice replied. Officers are 10 minutes out. 10 minutes felt like an hour pressed into my chest. The woman shut off her engine and stepped out, keeping her distance this time. I didn't mean to pressure you, she said quietly. This feels wrong. I nodded. It does. That's the problem. Another car passed, slower because of the blinking hazards. The cub froze, then scooted backward a few inches, startled by the noise. My heart slammed against my ribs. The man spoke again, voice low. If the mother comes back and sees us, we're dead, I said flatly. That ended the conversation. We waited. Wind moved the grass. Dust drifted across the road. No bear. The cub crept forward again, this time committing more of its body. Its belly dragged through the dirt, leaving a faint line behind it. It paused, looked left, then right, as if trying to understand the world beyond the truck. I crouched slightly, keeping my hands visible. Hey, stay? It didn't understand the words, but it heard the tone. It stopped, wobbling on unsteady legs. The woman whispered, "It's going to make it to the road." I shook my head. Not if we do this right. Doing it right meant something that felt terrible in the moment. It meant not grabbing the cub, not scooping it up and feeling like a hero. It meant trusting that trained people were closer than they felt, even when every instinct screamed to act. Another minute passed, then another. The cub took a step, then another. Its nose pointed straight toward the open road. I stepped sideways again, making myself larger in the driver's view, arms out just enough to slow anyone down. My eyes never left the cub. "Come on," I muttered. "Just wait." The grass behind us stayed empty. The cub lifted its head and started to crawl toward the light, toward the sound of the open world, toward the edge of the shoulder. And I realized we were seconds away from finding out whether waiting had been the right choice at all. The wildlife officers arrived without sirens. I heard the engines before I saw them, low and controlled, rolling down the dirt road as if they had learned how to move without disturbing the land itself. 2 trucks pulled in behind mine, spaced out with intention, leaving room for everything that might still happen. 3 people stepped out, neutral clothing, calm movements, faces that carried no panic, no urgency that could spill into chaos. One of them, a woman with short dark hair and steady eyes, raised a hand toward me, a quiet signal to stay where I was. "Thank you for waiting. You did the right thing." I nodded, though my legs still felt tight, like I had been standing on edge for far longer than I realized. "The cub's right under there. He's been moving toward the road." She leaned slightly, careful not to crowd the bumper, then nodded once to the others. "Okay." Slow and quiet. They moved with practiced restraint, each person slipping into a role without speaking. One positioned himself farther up the road, lifting a hand to slow an approaching car until it rolled to a stop and cut its engine. Another stood off to the side, eyes fixed on the tall grass, scanning for any movement that didn't belong to the wind. The woman knelt near the truck, not reaching in, not rushing, speaking softly to the space around her rather than directly to the cub. "Easy, easy." The cub hesitated, its small body tense, breath quick and shallow. When she slid a narrow board along the ground, gently creating a boundary between the cub and the open road, it froze again. No grabbing, no sudden motions, just shaping the space so panic had nowhere to go. I stepped farther back, exactly where they told me to stand, resisting the urge to lean in, to watch more closely, to reassure myself that everything was truly under control. The cub made a thin, tired sound. Confused, overwhelmed. The woman slowly eased a thick blanket forward, inch by inch, using it like a guide rather than a trap. When the cub shifted again, she adjusted the angle, patient, until the small body finally slid into a carrier. The door closed with a soft, final click. Just like that, the tension that had wrapped itself around the road, the field, and my chest loosened. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding, my shoulders dropping as if someone had quietly removed a weight from them. The woman stood and met my eyes. "You kept your distance. You called for help. That's why this worked. Is the mother coming back?" I asked, already knowing the answer wouldn't offer comfort. She looked toward the field, watching the grass sway in uneven waves, then shook her head. "Not likely. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they can't." That answer settled heavily in my chest, heavier than fear had been. They loaded the carrier into the truck with careful hands. Before closing the door, the woman paused and looked back at me. "He'll go to a rehabilitation center. Minimal contact. If everything goes right, he'll be released back into the wild. If it goes right." They left as quietly as they arrived. Engines faded into distance. The road returned to what it had been before, as if the moment had folded itself away and left no mark behind. I drove home with the radio off, letting the silence fill the cab. Every mile felt longer than usual. That night, sleep came in short stretches. I kept replaying the moment the Cub crossed into the light. How close it had been to the road. How easy it would have been to act on instinct instead of restraint. And how good that wrong choice might have felt in the moment. The next few days passed normally on the surface. Work, groceries, small conversations that didn't touch anything real. But the field stayed with me. The smell of dust. The way the grass bent in the wind. The sound of that small whine. The image of a line drawn in dirt where a life could have tipped either way. I found myself slowing down more than usual, waiting longer before responding, letting moments pass without filling them. A week later, my phone rang while I was sitting alone at my kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug that had already gone cold. "This is Wildlife Services," the woman said. The same steady voice. I straightened. "Yes, we wanted to let you know the Cub is stable, eating on its own. No injuries." I closed my eyes, resting my free hand on the table. "Thank you." There was a brief pause, the kind that carries weight. "We can't promise outcomes, but your choice gave it a chance." After the call ended, I sat there longer than necessary, listening to the quiet of my own kitchen. Later, I went for a drive. Not back to the same road. Somewhere else. A quieter place with trees and a shallow creek running over stones. I parked, rolled the window down, and listened to water moving the way it always had, long before me and long after. I thought about how closely responsibility and restraint sit beside each other. How help isn't always about stepping in, fixing, or touching, but about knowing when to step back and let others do what they are meant to do. The world didn't give me a sign. No bear appeared. No moment of closure waited at the edge of the trees. But when I drove away, something had settled inside me. Not pride, not relief, just the quiet knowledge that, for once, I hadn't made the moment about myself. And sometimes, that is the most human choice of all.